Hello, wrestling fans. Let me move my microphone a little bit closer than it currently is because I don't feel I'll be able to reach you even with a very powerful voice like this one, unless you're a little bit closer. Welcome, I am Tom Colohue. You are currently watching on one of two YouTube channels, that being my own personal YouTube channel, or even more importantly, how things are going at the moment, the Daily Wrestling YouTube channel. Now, if you're new to Daily Wrestling, or if you haven't seen much of the live content we are starting to put out, something to be aware of. The mission statement of Daily Wrestling, as you might expect, is to give you wrestling every single day. So throughout March, we have Match Madness, match after match after match. Every single day, you will have wrestling coming to you at Daily Wrestling, and the YouTube channel is built around doing that and providing that. But in addition, you get more than that, and that is why we are doing Daily Wrestling Warmups, which is essentially Raw, NXT, and SmackDown preview shows every single week, hosted by myself, Tom Colohue. I'm a wrestling journalist who has worked at PW Torch, Sportskeeda, and of course, Fansided, a number of different companies, while also at the moment working on my own individual Twitch show. So I have a lot of experience meeting, chatting to wrestlers, talking about wrestling and analyzing it, and I will be bringing you a quick breakdown of what to expect in every single show for WWE, going forwards. We'll get about 10, maybe 15 minutes of breakdown of the preview. We'll be answering your questions. So if you have any questions, please do send them in. You can ask me whatever the hell you want, essentially, and I will do my best to answer it. And then later on, we'll finish maybe 20, 25 minutes in. So 5 minutes before Raw starts, we are the warm-up act. We are the opening act, as it were, before you get started and tuck into WWE Raw. Someone 7 is already here, says, yo, welcome someone. I say the 7 because that's already using for his Twitch handle, so someone I'm familiar with. I can, of course, pop your comments up at any time. So if you want to say hi, you are, of course, welcome to do so. At the end of the show, I will be sticking this banner on, which essentially directs you to a full watch party with alternative commentary that is happening over on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Tom Colohue. Now, let's get into the meat of it, shall we? We'll give 10, maybe 15 minutes of preview here, just going through the preview documents that we have. I've checked WWE's Twitter and WWE.com. They were very late in their preview this week, and on the Twitter, there is nothing new to report. So, the big news, based on what I was saying earlier to another stream, the big news this week is, of course, the main event, the planned match between The Miz and Bobby Lashley. This is not a match I think anyone particularly expected to see until very, very recently. That being, of course, as recent as 8 days ago when The Miz won the championship at the Elimination Chamber, thanks largely to Bobby Lashley. So The Miz, currently the WWE champion, owes Bobby Lashley, and I don't think that's a great position to be in if you are, of course, The Miz, as most of his facial expressions showed last week. Also happening this week is the return of Drew McIntyre. The big question, of course, is how that's going to play into what happens with Bobby Lashley and The Miz, because Drew McIntyre, the former champion, will be eager to make something happen and something change based on how things have been reacting previously. It took 7 men to take the championship away from Drew McIntyre. The 5 in the Elimination Chamber, before then Bobby Lashley and The Miz. 7 men. So even though The Miz is a paper champion, and it definitely comes across that he definitely has got one over on Drew McIntyre by crook. Entirely by crook. There is no hook, there is simply crook. If you are just jumping into this video, I can see some friendly faces that I'm familiar with. Please do remember to click like. That helps us grow, that helps us expand. And I will be talking to you a little bit later about how best to support this channel as it heads into the monetization period, the big growth period that we're expecting to see coming soon. So keep an eye out for that. We have a couple of comments in. Daily Wrestling, the actual host channel, as it were, says, great having you on board. Thank you very much, sir. Someone says, do you think Drew will be wrestling tonight? As I did mention Drew, I'll answer this one now. I don't think we're going to see Drew McIntyre wrestle tonight. I'm not entirely sure who the obvious opponents are outside of, for example, Sheamus. But I'd like to see Sheamus and Drew held until Fastlane. That seems most logical for me. given what happened with Sheamus last week, where essentially he fought and defeated Jeff Hardy, but didn't really get anywhere in whatever his quest was for the WWE Championship, I think there is unfinished business there between he and Drew. Now, initially, the feud was built around Sheamus charging and chasing a WWE Championship opportunity. He got kind of one, but not really, which suggests he may have something to say about that, but certainly he didn't last week. Everything Pro Wrestling is here as well, saying, hey, Tom, welcome Conrad, a creator that I am personally a big fan of as well, and I suggest you check his work out. So, going back to the preview that we have so far, whatever Sheamus does this week, it's going to be a difficult position for him to be in, because to go from a potential WWE Championship feud to wherever the hell he is now, wherever he is in the mix, is a very difficult proposition indeed. As regards Jeff Hardy, who of course competed with Sheamus last week, it's an even more difficult position for him because he hasn't really done much in the way of anything recently. Since returning, he had a prolonged feud with Sheamus, which he won a match, the bar fight, by painting his face. Now, if it was that easy, everyone would be doing it. But to be fair, that is essentially how Papa Shango and the Ultimate Warrior made their careers. Maybe there's a trick there. That's all I'll say. Conrad says, is Lashley winning the title? I would be stunned if Lashley did not come away as the champion out of this feud. But I think this week might be slightly too early. This seems to me like more of a fast lane thing. I think it's very possible that Drew McIntyre injures either The Miz or injures The Miz, allowing The Miz to essentially make an escape for another week and push it back a little bit further. That's basically what I'm expecting to see. A long, slow work for The Miz to essentially try and keep hold of it for a couple of days more, just a couple more days. That could also involve John Morrison taking a couple of bullets for The Miz. My suspicion, quite simply, is that a lot of people are going to be throwing themselves in the way, as it were. Guinness Gamers is here as well. Welcome, Owen, saying hi, Tom. Thank you very much for joining us. Please, if you are just joining, remember to click that like button. As of last week, it looks like we are starting with our Asuka versus Charlotte Flair feud moving into the WrestleMania storylines. Now, last year we had Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair, and Asuka featured in the opening match, the tag team match, her and Kairi Sane against Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. There is still an outside chance, given that she won't be involved in the actual match at WrestleMania between Randy Orton and The Fiend, that Alexa Bliss could be involved here. But the way they built the storyline with Charlotte last week, it seems destined to be the case now that Charlotte Flair is where she is and where she needs to be. The way I see it, Asuka should be reclaiming her win, but this is WWE, so it's very hard to guarantee that with any sort of regularity, shall we say. I would expect to see another tag team match between those two women facing off against, I don't want to see Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler again, but potentially maybe Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke, who unfortunately have been in the position of taking the pin for a number of weeks now as the tag team specialists, as it were, that they are. So I suspect we'll see another match with Charlotte and Asuka. Asuka did get a kick to the face last week. Hopefully she is okay now. Let's have a quick look at what people are saying. Conrad says, hit that button. Thank you very much, Conrad, for cheering us on here. Owen says, what do you think of my fantasy booking? Miz, Drew, and Lashley at Fastlane. Sheamus cost Drew, so they face at WrestleMania, and then Bobby challenges Brock. Now, number of ways I can see this going. I expect they're going to stall the match with Drew against Sheamus at Fastlane, completely independent of the WWE Championship, and then Lashley destroying The Miz. If that does happen, I then expect that if we have Brock Lesnar signed, and I have no idea if Brock Lesnar has signed a new contract, I expect that will be the ideal time for him to return, leading into a triple threat match between Lashley, Drew McIntyre, and Brock Lesnar. I suspect that's the only way Lashley and Brock Lesnar are going to be allowed to step into the ring together. That said, there are a number of exciting ways for this to go. It's a good thing to fantasy book. It's interesting, and that's the best way to go about it. Someone says, when do you think Bray will be coming back? I still expect him to be only wrestling in ring next at WrestleMania. That may be the day he actually formally returns, but I would hope it's a little bit sooner, at least in video packages and Firefly Funhouse segments, to try and push what they're doing there, because this is not going to be a cinematic match. They can't do them at WrestleMania with fans in the building. So I don't know what they're going to do, but they need to start working towards it sooner rather than later. Guinness Gamer says, is there anything else worth watching on tonight's show? Maybe something to do with Riddle might get set up. With Matt Riddle and the United States Championship, I suspect we're going to see something of an open challenge, similar to the one that is happening with AJ Styles right now. AJ Styles is having a sort of open challenge, but there's no championships involved, whereas Matt Riddle is only a 1 week old champion. He did beat John Morrison last week. I expect we will see him against someone new this week. When it comes to WrestleMania, Matt Riddle's in an interesting position in that he doesn't really have an obvious opponent. I think AJ Styles is the ideal opponent for him to face off against, and that is what I'm hoping to see tonight start to build in some way. Owen also says, who do you think will face the Hurt Business for the titles at Mania, or will they just be in Bobby's corner? There's hardly any teams. It is possible that Ivar will be returning as part of the Viking Raiders to action sooner rather than later. That would mean that the Hurt Business at least have a new opponent. But really, at the moment, the only option is the New Day. They will not leave the New Day off the WrestleMania card, so they will definitely be in some sort of match. My expectation is they will be re-challenging the Hurt Business at that point. As Guinness Gamers points out, many people are complaining about Miz winning the title, and at first he was as well, but it's made the road to WrestleMania on Raw so interesting. More interesting, certainly. I think it was very obvious over on SmackDown where we were heading as regards Edge. He wasn't challenging Drew McIntyre. I don't think that's a surprise to anyone for me to say. But with Drew, no opponent actually seemed to be in any way obvious. Braun Strowman was the one that I was leaning towards, with Bobby Lashley facing Keith Lee at WrestleMania for the United States Championship. The WWE have made their mind up, and it's at least an interesting one. Matt suggests a Falls Count Anywhere type match with Fiend and Orton. That would make sense. At least it would be different. The Fiend does seem to have a penchant for fighting outside of the ring at the moment. I think we'll have some element of Firefly Funhouse match in that, as you suggest there, Falls Count Anywhere would work as long as it ends in a Firefly Funhouse or in some way ends in some sort of satanic ritual. Who doesn't mind a satanic ritual? And Matt believes at WrestleMania we will see Kofi Kingston versus Mustafa Ali. I don't think that's outside the realms of possibility, but I think with the lack of tag teams on Raw, they might struggle if they have the New Day in something separate. What have we got left in our Raw preview? Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt is continuing to be built. It is likely that we will see another appearance this week of Alexa Bliss. Randy Orton spat up some tar last week, so ideally he should stop smoking and maybe have a quick lie down. That might do him the world of good. You never can tell, but ultimately, if you're a snake and you bite people, you're eventually going to get some blood in your mouth. So a quick change of diet might be in order. In addition to that, we saw last week the continuation of whatever the hell is going on between Shane McMahon and Braun Strowman. If you are a regular over on the Twitch streams that we do, then you'll be aware that we may have summoned Shane McMahon, and for that, I don't apologize, just so everyone knows. Guinness Gamer says, I want to see a big match between Apollo and Big E for the IC title at WrestleMania, but I expect that's a fast lane thing with Christian or a multi-man. I'm not entirely sure Christian will be that involved in it. It could be we see that, but when we lead into fast lane, my expectation is that we'll see Big E, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Apollo Crews. And honestly, I kind of think Apollo Crews should be coming away with this one, personally at least. That's something I'd very much like to see. Having a good laugh, saying, "Oh, eating all that chocolate." He needs to be careful. He needs to be careful. It was very much a Halloween moment in that kids eat too much candy and then start throwing up. Corey MLB is here. Hi. Says, hi, Tom. I've been lurking. This is a good show. I'm ready for Raw tonight. Good show earlier on Twitch too. Thank you very much, Corey. Glad you were able to catch up. And yeah, I'm glad that so many people are joining us for the previews, getting us some comments in. We are just launching live stuff over on the Daily Wrestling YouTube channel. Please do remember to follow over there as well. We are starting a chase towards something good there. The mission statement, as it were, is wrestling every single day. Now, I'm setting up a number of interviews as well. There are some interviews over there with some of our rising talents. The very first match that we have is Davari versus Aj Ziegler. Aj Ziegler has been interviewed by myself. You can check that out over on the Daily Wrestling channel. And at the moment, while we are still putting together the package for our monetization over on Daily Wrestling, we do have a Patreon, which is not my personal Patreon. This is very much the company Patreon, and this goes towards supporting the work that they do there to make those wrestling matches happen and to give you daily wrestling every single day. there are a number of people that you might want to check out who will be appearing in those wrestling matches, including, for example, EC3 is quite a big name that you may get to enjoy if you keep a weather eye on the horizon and subscribe over there. Owen says, do you think Bryan may get added to the Edge versus Reigns match, or will he have a singles program? Pardon me. I'm not sure if it'll be a singles program, but he will not be added to Roman Reigns versus Edge. Daniel Bryan's quest for the Universal Championship will end at Fastlane in a loss to Roman Reigns. That's not a prediction. That's a spoiler. Should call these spoiler warning. Really should. Owen would like to see Christian or Triple H challenge AJ Styles to pay off all this build-up. I'm not sure there is any build-up to Christian or Triple H against AJ Styles. I'm not sure there is any build-up whatsoever, but fans really want to see it, and that has certainly caught some attention. Matt says Apollo versus Nakamura at Mania, of Nakamura win the title, maybe. That could certainly work, but then what would happen with Big E? There are a lot of people that we may struggle to get onto the card at the moment for WrestleMania. Guinness Gamer says sub to Daily Wrestling. Thank you very much, Owen. Just waiting for someone to say it copied Wrestling Daily. Daily Wrestling has been a brand for a little while. And of course, when you consider the mission statement, wrestling every single day, Daily Wrestling. Makes sense, really. Corey, thank you for saying that. Says make sure you guys check out the Twitch tonight. Yes, we will be having during Raw a live party, essentially a watch party of Raw over on my Twitch channel. I will be letting you know the links as we go on for anyone who is currently watching over on the Daily Wrestling section. Owen refers to all of AJ's build because he comes out every week and wins, which is why I think he's being set up for something big. We'll see on that one. We'll see. There is certainly some logic to that, but it really depends. With AJ, he's faced off so far against legends and part-timers. So maybe AJ Styles gets Goldberg. We all want that. What else have we got? So we've talked about Riddle. We've talked about Shane McMahon. We talked about the tag team. Bad Bunny is still the 24/7 champion. Did not expect that. He won the title to essentially take it to Saturday Night Live. That moment has now passed. So going forwards, the expectation was that we wouldn't see him with the championship for much longer. Bad Bunny has recorded a number of things, a number of different things backstage. So we'll see where they go going forwards. However, I'd like to see maybe Damian Priest and Bad Bunny try out being a tag team, or at least try out some wrestling against Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin. Now, I wouldn't have them win. I'd have Bad Bunny essentially take the pin, but show that he is willing to get in the ring, willing to put his body on the line, as we know he is, and maybe willing to take a pin or two. I think that would do him some favors in accruing some positivity going forward and some goodwill from the company. Matt says, no time I want AJ to be able to wrestle for a few more years. No more Goldberg. Oof, harsh. The thing is, AJ would probably give Goldberg one of his best matches. Didn't think about that. It's a real possibility, as AJ would be perfect for that role. Goldberg and John Cena have both been rumored to be on the way to WrestleMania. They have both been rumored to be coming. So if they are in fact coming, then they will have opponents. John Cena versus AJ Styles makes a lot of sense to me. But then what? Goldberg versus Riddle? Don't see that coming. Maybe Goldberg versus Keith Lee. That'd be bad for Keith Lee. Not gonna lie, that'd be bad for Keith Lee. This time last week, Mustafa Ali essentially laid into Retribution in what is definitely suggestive of a breakup. I did not expect to see his group breaking up so quickly, primarily because Mustafa Ali is the only interesting thing about Retribution. They had no direction whatsoever without him. They needed a mouthpiece. They needed someone who wasn't wearing a mask. They didn't really get it. Bit by bit, I like to see this build. Whatever happens next with Ali, it should be at least interesting, which is basically all you can ask for. As long as we get something interesting going forwards, I'd be happy with that. Corey MLB has also says stopped by. I get what you're saying. Subscribed to Daily Wrestling. Was going to tell me tonight on Twitch. Might as well tell me now. Yes, thank you very much, Corey. There is a bit of I understand that if you're a Tom Colohue fan or you enjoy my work, I'm asking you to subscribe to a lot of things. But I have a new job working for Daily Wrestling. I'm very happy to be involved, and I really am looking to get as much success their way as possible. I will not always be doing these shows on YouTube as well. I just thought this week was a great opportunity to ensure we got as much engagement as possible. We have a number of subscribers, quite a substantial amount of subscribers over on Daily Wrestling. Once we start getting a few more live shows under the belt, the engagement will increase once we get more likes and everything like that. So we are expecting to see a bit of a flood in that direction coming soon over the course of the next month or so as we grow our audience there. So jump over while you can, and I look forward to seeing you guys asking questions there as well. Matt says he didn't think Retribution would last past 3 months. You and me both. Jermaine Presley says, hi Tom, welcome Jermaine. Says, do you think we'll finally see the Fiend at Fastlane? I thought we would at Elimination Chamber. Turns out I was wrong. So I don't really want to hedge my bets in this particular instance. However, we have to see him soon to build towards his in-ring return at WrestleMania. Matt has said, I'd take Styles versus Cena 4. So would I. I would have no issue with that. It was great match after great match after great match. Owen's the same. Can't even tell you how much I'd love AJ and Cena again. Their matches were fire. Absolutely. Guinness Gamer says they should just beat down Ali and go their separate ways and become themselves again. Just make Ali even more fueled by Retribution. Yeah, but where would their separate ways take them? There's only so much room on Raw, especially now that we have Rhea Ripley expected to be coming up soon. So what can they actually do in that regard? Jermaine says, if they break up Retribution, do you think Mia Yim and Keith Lee get moved to SmackDown? I do not. I don't see any reason why that would happen. I think the Raw Women's Division needs Mia Yim more, and I think Keith Lee is going to be on Raw for a long time. He hasn't really had a chance yet, so maybe he'll be moved in the next shake-up, whenever that may be. Maybe after WrestleMania. Whenever that may be. And Matt says, I'm no longer predicting when The Fiend returns at a pay-per-view. Safer. Yeah, it's safer not to take that risk. It really is. So I have run through everything in preview. We, as you may have noticed, run through this content quite quickly, which is a quick service, whereas maybe over on Twitch, it takes a little bit longer. So at this point, I'm going to stick my banner on and tell you where you can find me. If you haven't already, be sure to pop over to twitch.tv/Tom Colohue. It is absolutely free to follow, and you will get a notification whenever I go live. I'm going to type that in the chat as well, so you've got a nice, handy link you can take. I will be live there in about 3 minutes, and you'll be able to have a full watch party, alternative commentary, analysis, and a good time in general, because we are building a wonderful community over there. So let's see what last things we've got. Owen says, have you heard anything about the rumors that Keith Lee has heat? I have not. To my knowledge, everyone is a big fan of Keith Lee backstage, and nobody is particularly unhappy with him or what he is delivering for them. He's just unfortunate in that he picked up an injury. And Matt says, how about Mia Yim versus Asuka at Fastlane? They teased that months ago. Well, I don't know who this Mia Yim is. Don't know who that is. Maybe Reckoning will be able to get in the ring, but I think at the moment they're being a little careful with her, just to essentially take it slow and not worry too much about what's going on there. I seem to be out of questions. We are currently 23 minutes into the show, which means it is only 7 minutes away from Raw starting. I am clicking the go live button over on Twitch. There will be a wait screen to greet you when you get there, but I am live and kicking as we speak. Not reckoning. That's not reckoning. Fair enough, fair enough. You're not calling her that. Fair enough, fair enough. I get it. I don't call Slapjack Slapjack. I call him Flapjack because it's funny. What you can expect over on Twitch is good times. I have these weird little channel point things that people seem to enjoy, where I cut promos on Vince McMahon. Ed says, where is a home for this not on your channel? I can't tell you. In fact, I intended to end here anyway, but I'm going to put a link to the channel. I'm also, more importantly, going to put a link in to the latest match, the first match in what will be a wrestling match every single day. That is over on the Daily Wrestling channel. Have a click of that. The match is Davari versus Aj. Even if you're not particularly interested in that match, be sure to click like. That helps it grow, and then that takes you directly to the Daily Wrestling channel. From there, if you click subscribe, you will be seeing me regularly over there Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Right now, I'm also on my own channel. That will not last forever. That is until we have monetization over on Daily Wrestling, because I can't multi-stream when we are monetized, as I believe I've explained in my transition to Twitch. So for anyone who hasn't yet, go over to twitch.tv/Tom Colohue. I'm wrapping up here. I am Tom Colohue. This has been your daily wrestling warm-up. We are the warm-up act to Monday Night Raw. I hope everyone enjoys the show. Pardon me. I'll see you on Wednesday on Daily Wrestling for our NXT warm-up. And I will see you on Twitch in about 2 minutes. Everyone have a good night.